Live from the Pitch Pad in New York City. Get ready to unleash your inner entrepreneur with Pitch Live with Amy Summers. Whether you're a seasoned entrepreneur or just dipping your toes into the Shark Tank, this is the place to be to discover how to turn your pitch into reality. Fasten your seatbelts, pitch stars, because the spotlight is on you and we are about to make success happen. On this episode of Pitch Live,
I don't even know who the journalist was, but I just remember it because it was so shocking and he basically cussed me out. Yeah. I don't think I cried or anything like that, but I just remember hanging up the phone and feeling a little confused. I was just like, well, I'm just trying to pitch a story. I don't know why that was so offensive to him. Anything else after that kind of rolled off my back. So whoever that man is, I don't know if you're listening, but I overcame.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Get ready for Pitch Live in 3, 2, 1. Welcome to Pitch Live. I'm your host, Amy Summers, founder and president of Pitch Publicity and Vox. I'm also a hardworking entrepreneur who is passionate about helping you reach success in any area of your life. And I know that is possible after decades of experience in perfecting the pitch and enhancing communication skills, which is why I'm here today and joined by Myisha Chapman, who is a former and forever pitch star, having interned with us at Pitch Publicity for a little over a year, starting in the spring of 2013. Fast forward today, Myisha is now a vice president on the corporate healthcare team at Ruder Finn in Atlanta, where she advises senior leaders across biotechnology, pharma, and nonprofit sectors, helping them shape narratives that inform, inspire, and drive action. She's become an expert at building trust and connection through strategic storytelling. And prior to Ruder Finn, Myisha has held roles at other PR agencies, including Edelman and Spectrum Science Communications. Myisha earned her degree in public relations from the University of Florida and went on to earn a Master of Health Administration. She is deeply passionate about elevating patient voices and helping people make informed choices about their health and their lives. Welcome, Myisha.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited for this conversation. And go Gators.
Yes, go Gators. And my heart just flutters reading your bio and all the things that you're doing in healthcare, because as we'll get into later, of course, you did a bunch of health clients at Pitch Publicities.
I did. Yeah.
Well, before we get into all the questions, I'm doing something new this season called Behind the Bio series. And
Okay.
I would like you to share with our audience something that people really don't know about you that maybe they couldn't find out if they researched online or went on your social media. Tell us a little bit about Myisha. I know this is a curveball,
That's a good one. I have to really think about it. If they don't go on my social media. Well, I'm not, ironically, as much as I use social media for my clients, I'm not really huge on social media myself. I think my last post was 6 or 7 months ago when I first had my twins. So that's maybe a little fun fact. And then before that was my wedding 4 years ago. So
wedding, twins.
Yeah. So there's probably a lot people don't know from my social media. I would say I'm obsessed with tennis. I know that sounds super random, but I feel like that's a fun one. I'm really into tennis. I would love to go to Wimbledon, the US Open one day. I don't know what it is. I can't play at all. I'm not very good, but I love watching the sport. I think it's a beautiful, very elegant sport. I love that it's very international. And so I'm a little bit obsessed with hopefully maybe one day my son's playing tennis. I even bought them a baby tennis book. So I'm indoctrinating them early.
You can be a tennis mom. I like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, we'll have to make the US Open happen. All you have to do is come visit me.
Exactly.
It
That
is
would be
fun.
perfect.
I
Yeah.
went for the first time not too long ago, and I was like, wow, I really enjoy this. It's really fun in person. It's a different experience than seeing it on TV for sure.
Yeah.
All right, so moving on from tennis, Myisha, tell me if you can remember, because it's been a little bit, what prompted you to apply for Pitch Publicity for the internship? And was there anything in the interview process that really stood out to you?
I remember it very well, actually, even though it's been some time. I there was a career website that I had signed up for through the College of Journalism at UF, and they sent emails, especially with people who had went to the alma mater, of job opportunities. And I got an email from the college, and it was an opportunity from you. And I had never heard of Pitch Publicity. It was my first ever internship. And you know, earlier in my college career, I actually started off as a journalism major. And around the time that I went to school, that was when there were massive, massive layoffs in print publications, especially. They were trying to figure out how to monetize going from print to digital. And so for me, it was kind of a wake up call where I had to shift into something that I felt like was still relevant and used my skills, but maybe wasn't that traditional journalism track. And so that's when I switched to PR. But to be perfectly honest, I didn't know a ton about it. And so I felt like having that real hands-on experience would help further my career and help me understand kind of what I was getting myself into before I even graduated with the degree. So when I applied, I don't remember the exact interview process. I do remember I had to send in, I think, some samples, definitely, obviously, a resume, and we had an initial conversation about, what the opportunity would be. We talked about the fact that, I'd be on the phone pitching journalists and anchors, and was I comfortable with that? And I was very honest in the fact that I had never done it before, but you were very encouraging in the fact that you helped mentor and build your team. And so I felt very comfortable stepping into an opportunity that, frankly, I didn't know a whole lot about.
Let's talk about that because I'm pretty sure on your first day of training, I probably made you get on the phone and pitch somebody.
Yes.
What did that feel
Yes.
like?
It was honestly very nerve-wracking. Like I said, never had experience with that, and it kind of felt like cold calling, which if anybody knows my personality, I'm definitely not the type to just cold call or do kind of more bold things like that. But once I got more comfortable with it, and once I got a reporter to ask a follow-up question or sound interested, I just got that flutter and that, like, rush, and I was addicted to that ever since. And so even when, maybe there were some folks on the phone that weren't so nice or receptive to my pitch, I kinda let it roll off my back, and I took it as a challenge to, 1, try to find a different in with them, and then even if they weren't particularly interested, I still use that as feedback to maybe strengthen or tweak my pitch a little bit and use that, to get hits for other, outlets. So yeah, at first it was definitely scary and intimidating, but over time, I kind of put that feeling to the side and chase that rush of getting the hit.
Do you remember a time that a journalist was a little short or rude with you? Do you recall?
I do. I don't even know who the journalist was, but I just remember it because it was so shocking. I know it was a male, and he basically cussed me out.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And it was very jarring. I don't think I, like, cried or anything like that, but I just remember hanging up the phone and feeling, like, a little confused. I was just like, "Well, I'm just trying to, like, pitch a story. I don't know why that was so offensive to him." But I think after that experience, anything else after that kinda, like, rolled off my back. It didn't faze me at all.
It made you get some thick skin quickly.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So whoever that man is, I don't know if you're listening, but I overcame.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
And next. Well,
Yeah.
on the flip side, do you remember, like, a real memorable, media hit you got early on that really was an endorphin rush for you?
Yeah, there are so many good ones. I think probably one of my favorites was for NBC in Miami because I was born in New York but raised and grew up in South Florida. And actually at the time, the internship was remote and I was back home for the summer. And so I was pitching literally in Miami, pitching NBC 6 Miami. So it was just really cool to, like, get a hit for a client for a news station that I watched, every time I went home for the summer.
Do you remember who you got on NBC?
I wanna say it was, Martha Stewart's personal trainer. I'm forgetting her
Lisa
name.
Lynn.
Lisa Lynn, yes. How can
I
I
thought
forget?
that was
Yeah.
you. I remember because
Yeah.
you booked it. Did you go with me in studio?
I didn't get the chance to go. I think the dates conflicted.
Okay.
That would have been a really fun one, but you sent me a picture of you and Lisa with I
Yes.
think we were promoting her book or
Yes.
her supplements or something like that. Yeah, and
Yeah,
so
she
that
had
was really
both.
cool. Yeah, okay, both. See, I have a pretty good memory.
Yeah. Well, speaking of different clients, you worked with so many of our clients during that time. Does anyone stand out to you the most that you recall that maybe was
I
like a memorable experience or just their advice was good for you?
I think Lisa Lynn stands out the most because of that NBC6 hit, but also, um, I remember working I think it's David Foreman. He was, like, the wellness expert. Yeah.
The herbal
Uh, the
pharmacist.
herbal pharmacist, yeah. When I first read his bio, I was like, "What kinda herbals are we talking about?" But it was all above board. No, that was a really cool one to work on. I don't know, for me, it was always more about it wasn't about how flashy the client was, it was about how good their story was that they could tell. I loved listening back to the interviews, even if it wasn't ones that I had booked, but just hearing them bring to life their story and how they also kind of switched it up depending on the audience or the station that they were being featured on. That was really cool and interesting. And yeah, it was always more about the story and how I could get more, traction for them.
Now, with all the health clients we were giving you at Pitch Publicity, I'm just curious, did that influence your track? Because it seems like when I look at your resume, even before Rooterfin, like you've consistently stayed in some area of health, or was that
Yeah.
just a coincidence?
No, that definitely had a big influence on me staying in health. There were other agencies after Pitch Publicity that were more generalists. So I had clients all the way from beauty to technology to religious organizations, but I always gravitated more to the health and science accounts. It just felt more meaningful to me, and I had that background at Pitch where I felt comfortable in kind of that zone, even if I was stretching my skills in other ways and, having more of a leadership role and learning different aspects of PR and communications. Healthcare always felt like home to me, and it has since then.
That's great. So many college students, when they come through at Pitch, they have this aspiration of doing PR and entertainment or
Yeah.
fashion or sports. Those are always the top ones, beauty. What Knowing what you know now, what would you tell that college student that's like really focused on just those opportunities? Because you've had so much different opportunities through all the agencies you've been at. What would you tell them
Yeah.
to think about as they're trying to prepare for their career?
I would say go to an agency where you can have those different experiences in those different sectors, right? You might have it in your head that, okay, this track is what I want to go on without actually having done it before. And so it could be very limiting if that's all you do and all you know. So I am really grateful, even though I had that, healthcare background at the start. I still kind of diversified my skills in terms of the different sectors that I was working within to really, really see and make sure, okay, is healthcare what I really want to do? And I found out that I love healthcare, but there were also some maybe like side tracks or things that I hadn't considered, like health tech or more
Mhm.
sciencey accounts or nonprofit sectors. So even if you're stuck on one track, there might be some adjacent industries that could be interesting to you. I know for me, I can relate to that statement of, a lot of people wanting to be in beauty or entertainment because it's flashy, it looks very glamorous. I personally know quite a few people who are in that. Some of them absolutely love it and they would never go back. And then others kind of have this experience where from the outside it looks flashy and cool, but when you're actually working in it, what do they say? Don't ever meet your heroes or something like that.
It can be a little cutthroat, let's just say,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, it can be. But that's not to knock on it. There's some people who thrive in that and they love it and it's they're happy to be in that sector. But I would just say if you're early in your career, try not to limit yourself, and just look into other areas of PR. There's so many ways that you can use that degree. It's amazing.
I like that. So it's been a while since you've been at Pitch, and I'm just curious. I mean, you're a vice president now. Are you still pitching media? Is that part of your day to day?
I do pitch here and there.
Okay.
I would say it depends on the client account that I'm working on and honestly the agency, frankly. I have found a trend happening across agency world as I've gotten further in my career. They are segmenting roles a lot more. So now you have, back in my day, you would kind of have to be a jack of all trades and do
Hmm.
everything. You had to do the comms and the writing. You had to draft and actually pitch the pitches. You had to do the social media posts. Now they have teams that are segmented. There's a media relations team. There's a digital social team. They really kind of separate those roles a lot. I think it does a disservice to a lot of people, honestly, that are coming up in PR because then they don't have that well-rounded breadth of skills. Because even if you are senior, you're going to have to maybe oversee a team that
Hmm.
does media, that does social, that does all the things. And so you want to have that basis and that background to understand how it all works. But I've been very um, I guess, intentional about making sure that I keep those skills very sharp. So whatever role I'm in, I still make sure that I'm touching media, that I'm pitching, that I'm involved in other aspects of PR outside of just the strictly comms areas.
Stay in the trenches.
Yes, it's important.
All right. So you're still occasionally will pop in and do an important media pitch here and there. I think
Yep.
that's great. I totally agree with you. I'm of the same philosophy because I feel like if you're not in the trenches to some degree, then you're really out of touch with directing your team too, because things
Yep.
change even in how we pitch. So from your experience at Pitch Publicity, what would you say like the top skills, or is there a particular skill that you learned in that first internship that you're still using today in your job?
Oh, yeah. I would say the pitching, obviously, just at face value, knowing how to craft a really good pitch, packaging up a pitch really nicely and easily for the producers or whoever you're pitching so that they have a clear understanding of, why this story, why this person, and why does this fit my audience. I think always understanding your audience and making it as easy as possible for them to say yes. That's just a universal thing across, I think, comms and professional world in general. Also, just having that tenacity and that go-getter attitude. Pitching isn't easy, and even when you are good at it or you get a rush from it or you enjoy it, there's can be some lulls, right? There can be news cycles that kind of overtake what you're trying to pitch your client. There can be, just some challenges in the way you're trying to get those hits across. And so, having that tenacity, that go-getter attitude, and not letting one no kind of derail you, I think has really served me well across my career.
And especially when you were working with me, I remember specifically I was working on a passion project with Fabian Cousteau.
I remember
And
this.
you and a few others that were interning with me at the time, I really put on your shoulders. You all probably didn't know this at that time, but you were in charge of my clients that were paying me because
Yeah.
Fabian's campaign was not paid. And I was down in the Keys, like, I mean, I said yes to something and I had no idea what I was saying yes to. And before we knew it, like the whole world is like watching him. I'm getting media requests from like Brazil and
Oh, it was
Japan,
incredible.
and it was
Yeah.
crazy. And if you had not been working for me at that time, plus the others that were, um, I don't know if Pitch would still be here. So it's great to hear that you feel like you got some tenacity from Pitch. I think some of that was because I was literally throwing things at you, and just be like, "Okay, Myisha, make success happen. MSH,
Yeah.
let's go." And, it's interesting that, that kinda built the tenacity in you because I didn't have time to, like, really micromanage. I remember specifically, I don't know what this was about, but I remember a certain phone conversation with you during that time where I was just checking in. I'm like, "Is everything okay?" And you're like, "Yeah, I got this." So I was like,
Yeah.
"Okay."
I really love that we were able to just kind of take things and run with it. I will say, to your credit, I think you're downplaying yourself a little bit. I definitely had many calls with you where you would coach me over the phone. I would pitch you as if you were the reporter, and you would give me, things to work on, things to tweak. So yeah, there was definitely that mentorship and that guidance. But of course, like you mentioned, when there was things going on with like Fabian and other, I could tell when you were really, really busy. So I just tried to like hold down the fort as much as possible with the other clients.
You did a great job. And we did have a lot of great rehearsal sessions. Do you do
Yes.
rehearsal sessions with any of your team? I'm just curious.
No, I don't. I feel like the art of phone pitching has definitely changed. Speaking of the way we pitch being different now,
Hmm.
a lot of reporters don't even want you to pick up the phone and call them. Most of everything is over email. Obviously, there's exceptions to that. And if you have a certain relationship with the journalist, maybe they're more adept at picking up your call. But I mean, we literally just had like printouts of stations and would like go down the list and call them. Now it's just so different. You don't even really have to have those phone skills, which, there's pros and cons to that.
Yes, definitely the verbal skills. The phone
Mhm.
pitching helps with verbal skills. Well,
Yeah.
you're vice president now. It took you, I don't know, you've been out of school about a decade or so. It's pretty impressive. I'm sure a lot
Thank
of
you.
people watching this will be like, I want to be like Myisha one day and be a vice president. So tell us, how did you do it? How did you get to that title at this stage?
Yeah. I mean, just looking back on my career, I definitely had a lot of amazing mentors, you being one of them, people who always, connected me to someone else in their network. And even if that specific connection didn't lead to a job or an opportunity, you know, it could just open my eyes to different possibilities, and maybe that person connected me to the next person that then gave me the opportunity. So I would say I don't even like to call it networking because that feels so cold. It's all about connecting with people and thinking about your next step in your career, and is this opportunity, is this, job going to get me there? And just taking every job at face value in terms of what are the skills that I can learn here and how will that tell the bigger story of my career. And yeah, I think some of it is also just having great people around me that supported me and allowed me to be ambitious and keep, climbing the ladder.
How do you how do you maintain an authentic relationship with these mentors that you've had? I know you and I have stayed in touch, but
Yep.
any tips for people, maybe they need a great contact. Maybe they don't need anything from them at the time. Maybe they have a good job, but like you said, you still want to keep cultivating those relationships. What's an authentic way to do it that doesn't feel like you're bugging somebody important, for example?
Yeah, I think that's actually the perfect time to try to stay in touch with a contact when you don't need anything, when you already have a job, when you're not asking for something, because that just shows that it's a genuine relationship and it's not constantly quid quo pro. I think also something that I learned later on in my career, I didn't realize it earlier on, was that just because maybe your mentor is a lot more senior than you and they have a great position in a role, you can still add value for them as well. When you're reaching out to them, you can say, hey, like, I know I have these questions for you, but what can I answer for you? Are there anything in my background? I'm at X agency. Here's what I'm seeing. Here are the trends that I'm seeing across the agency. I would love to talk to you about it. Maybe it could be valuable to your business and what you're doing. So, it should definitely be a mutually beneficial relationship. And then specifically in terms of reaching out, I mean, it could be something simple. It could be an article you saw or a trend piece or something industry related, or it could even be something personal that made you think of them. Just reach out, a simple text or a phone call or an email to let them know that you're thinking of them, and that your relationship and your connection is meaningful.
I like that. Sometimes when I run across old pictures of
Mhm.
me and that person, I'll just text it to them and say, "Hey, I just ran across this." And that's a real easy way to
I
keep
like that.
keep yourself top of mind with them.
Yep.
And it's personal. It's not like it's posted on social. It's like a one-on-one, "Hey, I found this and just was thinking about
Exactly.
you."
And it's sweet, and who doesn't like a nostalgic moment? So
Right? Well, I mean, at this point, I'm sure you're managing other people. What does your team look like? How many people are you managing?
So right now I manage one. In a previous agency, I had several direct reports, but my corporate healthcare team is a little bit on the smaller side at Ruderfin. So I manage one person right now, and then I lead a team of 10 people. So I don't manage them directly. They're not my direct reports, but like the digital social team, I have a media relations person, a couple of account people, and some more junior support staff that help me run the account day to day.
So, as you've moved into these manager roles, how would you describe your leadership style, or how do you think that your direct reports would describe your leadership style?
So I'm definitely very supportive in terms of making sure that I understand what their ways of working are. Obviously everybody has their own style of doing things and, ways that they like to receive feedback, um, ways that they learn better, opportunities that they want to go after. And I never assume, I always make sure to ask my team directly, what are you interested? Is this filling your cup? Are these experiences for you? You know, do you feel like this is going to help you move to the next level? And obviously not every single task that we do every day at work is going to, be always the most awe-inspiring or be a direct correlation to, moving up in your career. But at least if you have those core activities, core accounts, things that you can point to that will help you move up, that's really important to me. So just listening, asking the right questions, and just being very supportive of what their goals and ambitions are.
I like that, always checking in with them, and, I wrote about that in my book too. You
Yes.
wanna know where people wanna go. Not everybody wants to be, in the C-suite. Some people they have other ambitions, so we shouldn't assume that and ask them, what really motivates them. When you in your day-to-day operating, what are some ways that you try to stay connected with your mentees or people that are working for you? What are some ways that you kind of keep in touch with them? Because I know, are you in a remote situation or
I'm
hybrid?
fully remote. Yep.
Fully remote. So talk to me about
Mhm.
that, because that can be super challenging, I think, when you're not in the office with people. So how do you authentically stay in touch with them, so that it doesn't come off like you're giving directives all the time?
Yeah. I think for me, it comes pretty naturally just having had worked remotely for so many years. I mean, I mentioned that the internship with you was remote, so which was very
We did it first.
unique. Yeah,
We
that
were
was
ahead
not
of the
common.
curve.
You were ahead of your time. It was not common to have remote opportunities at that stage. So I've always felt comfortable in that environment. I think um one thing specifically, things can really get lost in translation in writing, like on Teams messages or emails.
Mhm.
Sometimes feedback or directives can seem or sound a lot harsher in your head when you're reading them than what's intended. So if there's something that's more of a learning opportunity or a critique to my team, I try to pick up the phone rather than putting that in an email or a Teams message. Similarly, even if it's not a critique, if it's just something that maybe is a little more complicated to explain or would just be easier, despite being remote, I don't rely only on email and messaging. I make sure that I connect with my teams just naturally throughout the day. And then, of course, there's like more structured ways. I meet with my direct report weekly. We have standing meetings where we just kind of go over, what he's working on, any roadblocks that I can help remove, any challenges that he's having, any things that he's excited about. I make sure that we have that time uninterrupted to actually talk about those things. And we do that on camera. I would say Ruderfin does a good job of a lot of my colleagues are remote or spread across different geographies, and they make sure that for the most part, people are on camera for our meetings, so we still have that connection.
That's great. I love that. And I love that you're spontaneous using those phone skills. that you
Yep.
have. Just pick it up with the phone. But I like that there's also some structure too, because I feel like as leaders, as managers, it can be easy to just kind of plow through your work, throughout the week and not check in because you haven't heard from anybody. But do you find sometimes in those check-ins that you're like, I'm glad I had this check-in because I would have never known about XYZ?
Oh, yeah. I think especially, you know, being in more of a leadership role, sometimes people on your team are dealing with something that they don't feel comfortable at the time telling you. Maybe they need to process it. It's a challenge that they're having on the team, or they're just so busy that they don't even have time to stop and alert you of something that might be going on, that might be bubbling up. So having that set time, it's also great for them, right? They can say, okay, I'm meeting with Myisha, at this time today. Let me think about some of the things I want to discuss with her. And I try not to make it a working session. My direct report works also on one of my accounts, my client accounts, but we'll talk about the work on that account, but we don't really use it to like get the actual work done. That would be a separate meeting. I try to really keep it to mentoring him and removing those roadblocks, like I said, so that the time is valuable for him as well.
Is there a particular leadership skill that you're currently working on that you're like, okay, this is on Myisha's list for this year. I want to do better. What is it?
Yes, definitely. This one has always been a bit of a challenge for me. I'm definitely more of an introvert despite being in public relations. I know it's ironic, but I can definitely turn it on for my clients and when I need to. But when it comes to myself, I've always had a hard time um, being able to toot my own horn, so to speak. And that's really important, especially as you move up, to be able to show leaders, what are you working on? What are you doing? What value do you bring? I've always been able to articulate it in some way or the other, but I think I could get much better at that. Like even doing this podcast was a really big deal for me because I'm not used to talking about myself. I'm used to talking about my clients and tooting their horn, not necessarily my own. So that's something I'm definitely working on.
Yes, the profession of being behind the scenes.
Yes.
Well, good. I'm glad to hear that. Is there any valuable advice that you've gotten along the way that you wish, wow, I wish I would have had that advice earlier. I would have done something different in my career because maybe someone's listening and they're just getting ready to launch their career. What advice would you give to someone just getting started?
Yeah, that's a really good one. I'm trying to think back of on anything. Yeah, that's a really good one. I think for me, just making sure that you stay connected with people. I know I mentioned connection, a couple times. There's probably like earlier career, moves that I made or jobs that I had that maybe I didn't stay as connected to people that I worked with. LinkedIn is definitely very popular right now, but back then I feel like it wasn't as much of a big deal to like send out a connection request or really try to like build your network, so to speak. So, if those people reached out to me today or if I had their email, I would definitely reach out. But kind of losing touch with those people, I think early in your career, staying connected to as many people who helped build you and that you could still continue to learn from is really important.
It's never too early to build your network, especially
Yep.
on LinkedIn.
Yep.
Well, Maisha, this has been so much fun catching up with you. If somebody wanted to connect with you, what's the best way for our Pitch Live community to connect with you?
Yeah. Follow me social media, Instagram, Myisha.Renee. And you can definitely connect with me on LinkedIn, Myisha Chapman. And yeah, I would love to, you know, keep in touch with all of the pitch stars and everyone listening to this podcast.
Are you in a position where you hire?
I am.
Ooh. Can you
So
give us a
if you
quick interview tip on how to
oh,
really nail an
yes.
interview, especially like this in remote world?
Yes. I think having a good presence, you would be surprised as to how many people get on a virtual interview and they just don't seem interested or excited.
Mm.
Obviously, everyone's personality is different, so I'm not saying to fake anything, but have that energy, have that excitement. If you were to walk in a room and you're posture is kind of off, or you're looking down at the floor, that probably wouldn't, yeah, that probably wouldn't go over very well. So kind of use those same social cues when you're in an interview, and always ask questions at the end. When the interviewer says, "Do you have any questions?" Never say, "No, I don't have any questions." Make sure you prepare at least a couple to just have in your back pocket if there is time for you to ask questions, because it just shows that you're genuinely interested and that you thought about the conversation that you had.
Did you see how the self-proclaimed introvert just pitched herself? See, anybody can do this. She was so excited. She was into it. Do you remember like a best question you've gotten at at the end of an interview? Like, give us a really good one, because I think people don't think too hard about them. Did they ask you about you, or did they ask you about the company, or what's a good one?
I think a good one is always if they take something specific about what you talked about the role, and say, you know, say I were to do X task, what would make me an exceptional, person on the team at doing that task? Um, so taking something specific from the interview and taking it to the next level and showing that not only do I want to understand what the role is, but I want to understand how to be exceptional at this portion of the role. And something similar, what does success look like in 90 days if I were to be hired? Or just really forward thinking, because as the interviewer, it almost puts you in the seat of already thinking about them being in the role. It's almost like a little Jedi mind trick. I love it.
Yeah, you make them think that they're going to hire you.
Yeah.
And you're getting tips right there in the interview on
Exactly.
how to
How to
excel.
succeed. Exactly. Yep.
All right. Well, Myisha, thank you so much for joining us today. I know that you've inspired so many people in your career journey, and you're going to continue to do so. And I want everyone to share this episode so we can get more exposure and to all the things that Myisha is doing. Maybe you'll be doing an interview with her one day. Who knows? So make sure you stay connected to Myisha on LinkedIn and also Instagram. Myisha, this has been so much fun.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a blast.
And thank you for joining us on this episode of Pitch Live with Amy Summers. Be sure to hit that subscribe button and give us a rating or review. Your feedback helps us plan future episodes. I hope you were inspired today to get out there and pitch, to advocate for yourself, ask a few questions, like Myisha says, show up and look excited. As a bonus, you can join us at Vox, where you can get motivated, hone your communication skills, and binge as much mentorship as you want whenever you need it. The link is going to be in the show notes along with all of our social media handles. So let's stay connected so we can continue to follow each other in success. And until next time, Myisha, MSH.
Thank you.